Welcome once again to our program. I'm Harry Greenberger. I'm the president of the New Orleans Secular Humanist Association, and I'm the host for this program. And today we're going to have a very interesting guest and visitor to meet with us. It's Dr. Shirley Laska from the University of New Orleans. In order to introduce you, Dr. Laska, I'm going to read from material I got over the internet, and it has to do with the American Sociological Association, which very recently gave you an award, and this comes from their award statement. It says, this year's co-winner of the ASA's Public Understanding of Sociology Award is Shirley Laska. Professor Laska has been an important and prolific scholar of environmental sociology and disaster studies for the past 4 decades. From taking her PhD at Tulane University in 1972 to her current position as professor of sociology and director of the Center for Hazards Assessment, Response, and Technology, called CHART, at the University of New Orleans. Professor Laska has dedicated her scholarly career to the understanding of how Louisiana and surrounding coastal communities respond to different types of disasters, natural, technological, and terrorists. Her impressive career includes the publication of 4 books, dozens of articles, and countless professional reports. She was awarded the ASA Environment and Technology Section's Distinguished Contribution Award in 2000 and served as the Associate Vice Chancellor at the University of New Orleans. Now, having given you that burden to carry, I think maybe we might start by your telling us and explaining to us about the Center for Hazards Assessment, Response, and Technology, which you will probably refer to as CHART. It
is a mouthful, isn't it?
It is, yes.
Well, thank you for having me. When I stepped back to the faculty from the Vice Chancellor for Research position, I decided that I would attempt to establish a center that was a bit different or unique from other centers on campus. And the reason it was different was because it was going to be an outreach center for applied research. And what we mean by that is actually working with the communities directly to assist them with their challenges. Usually on a university campus, the orientation of the centers can range from the very most basic research to farther down the continuum, but usually not to the end of the other end of the continuum, which is what we might call direct services. Now,
okay.
CHART is direct services, but always with the twist that we study how we partner, and we prepare reports and publications on that so that we're able to we're able to share the best practices with others. So it's not simply a direct service as you might have with a nonprofit, for example.
Okay.
And therefore, it does, in my opinion, justify its presence in a university setting.
All right. So that's the mechanics of that group. But
yes.
Now, what do you do?
What we do is we partner with communities to assist them in reducing their risk, especially to natural hazards. And for us in this part of the world, the natural hazards, of course, are hurricanes.
And floods.
And floods,
yes.
That's correct. And for hurricanes, it's both the storm surge and the wind damage. So that is a pretty large challenge that this part of the world has with regard to that, relative to, say, other parts of the country and other parts of, for example, I have students from Europe now who are from the Czech Republic and from France, and they have a difficult time imagining a disaster. There's been a flood.
And you mean a natural disaster?
Yes.
They have experienced other kinds of disasters.
That's correct, but natural
yes.
disasters.
Uh-huh.
Prague had a flood in 2002, and there's some wildfires in France, and except for a winter storm, that's it.
Okay.
But for us, of course, the challenges are annual and, unfortunately, multiple times often within a season. So we really are challenged by that, by those natural disasters.
Now, so that is where you direct your attention. But
yes.
But I'm having a little difficulty still. What is it that you do in that regard?
Okay. Well, I'm getting there. I'm just sort of setting the stage.
All right. Very good.
Okay. Sometimes when a university professors are called upon to assist communities, they do so in a way that says that the university has the knowledge and it's going to instruct the community as to how something should happen. So say, for example, a physical scientist would say, well, this is what you need to know about coastal land loss or coastal subsidence. But what we believe, and I think it fits into your secular humanism perspective, is that it's a sharing of knowledge between the community and the university professors and students.
In other words, people working with people for the overall benefit.
It empowers the people if that's the process, as opposed to a receivership of information from the academics, and the people are receiving it but not as active with it. We also believe that the community has a high degree of knowledge about the subjects that we work with them on. And that's another given that oftentimes is not a given in the way that you interact with the community.
Now, let me ask you, when you say community, of course that includes New Orleans, but your community is more than just that, is it not?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. We collaborate with communities all over the coastal area. And in fact, right now we're in strong collaboration with Jean Lafitte. And I was on Thursday over in Lafayette because we likely will be collaborating again with Delcom, which is a coastal community that has had serious flooding over the course of these storms. So we do have a continuum of working with neighborhoods within the city, working with neighborhoods within Jefferson Parish, working with communities and areas, subdivisions in St. Tammany, as well as the smaller communities.
But when you say working with them, where you're not necessarily talking about post-disaster, you're talking about working with them prior to any kind of disaster. Is that right?
When you follow the continuum, the best time to, well, I shouldn't say this, the time in which the community is most eager to work is once they have recovered, but they're close to the last disaster. Because just as we were talking off camera about the therapeutic community and how it declines, people's interest in addressing the risk and making themselves more safe, making themselves safer, declines once you get farther away from the disaster. So it's more difficult to attract the community's attention when there has not been a recent disaster.
How about their attention when a disaster is imminent?
Well, when a disaster is imminent, you would hope that the elements of the response are already in place. And I'd be happy to discuss with you our work with evacuation, which of course would be that situation. Mm-hmm.
Well, but at the moment we are not anticipating a hurricane or a flood or other than a natural disaster. Mm-hmm. But your work is continuing right now,
constant,
is it not?
Yes. It's been nonstop since Katrina. We were very busy before, but since Katrina, it literally has been 12-hour days, 7 days a week. We're just constantly involved, yes.
And you are working, when you say working with the communities, what elements of the community, are you talking about public officials or the general population, or who are you working with?